Hi, I'm your host, Dr. Lori, and welcome to Universally Unique, exploring the neurodiverse world of the extraordinary. This podcast fosters curiosity and understanding about neurodiversity while empowering individuals with tools for acceptance and inclusion in classrooms, the workplace, and communities. Featuring shared stories of neurodiverse life experiences, it sheds light on navigating a world not designed for diversity. Universally Unique starts now. Hi, I'm Dr. Lori. My guest today is Mary Stolle. Mary is going to share her journey with her adult son after we take 3 box breaths. When we do the box breaths, I will count us. We'll take 3 breaths in. We'll take 4 breaths in. We'll hold for 4. We'll exhale for 4, we'll hold for 4, we'll take another breath, and we'll do three rounds of that. So starting now, breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, and finish with a nice sigh. 3 breaths. That's all. That should be all it takes to kind of get your nervous system reset. So just a little information about Mary. Part of Mary's story may sound a little familiar to some of you who have listened to the previous podcast, because I interviewed Mary's daughter, Kelly Hall, in our last episode, and she does actually mention her brother, and I suspect that Mary may mention her grandson just a little bit. So everyone somehow is all intertwined. For those of you who have been listening to the podcast for a while, you've probably figured out that every person that I have brought on is somehow connected to me in some way, or connected to someone that I know. So Mary, why don't you tell us a bit about the journey that you've been on with Travis, like when you noticed that things were not going quite as expected. He's what, the 3rd of your children?
Correct.
So you had a couple of children that were developing as expected. So
Right.
You may have spotted things a little faster than if he had been your firstborn. But so tell us a bit about him.
Okay. Well, at the time Travis was born, we lived in rural South Dakota. And again, I had 2 children previous. One was term, the next one was Kelly, as a matter of fact. And she was about 4 to 5 weeks early and only weighed 4 pounds. Everything with her seemed to be okay. She was just little. But Travis was a whole different story. He was born at 26 weeks gestation. And I was air ambulanced to the University of Minnesota Hospital in Minneapolis for him, where they did get labor stopped. However, I developed a fever, and then they had to allow Travis to be born, and he was born naturally and consequently suffered a brain bleed at the time. So right from the get-go, we knew this was not going to be your typical pregnancy and development. He was 3 months early, and he actually got out of the hospital on his due date, but he progressed slowly, and we were told that we could have a very seriously involved young man with all kinds of things, being wheelchair bound and all kinds of scary stuff that we weren't sure of. So as we brought him home, he was very small, but he came home at 5 pounds. And with an older...
Travis is huge now, so it's hard to imagine him at 5 pounds.
Yes, very hard to imagine him being that teeny tiny. For those of you who can't visualize what a 1 pound, 14 ounce baby looks like, he fit on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. He fit on that. And so anyway, I tried to do a lot of reading about what was expected with him. We knew that it would take a while for him to catch up. He had Kelly above, and then about approximately a year later, I had another baby. And he actually, even though he was a year younger, kind of developed at the same time on the same pattern as his younger sister, Christy. And so it was easy to compare. He walked at about 2 when she walked at 1. So
Hmm.
some of the milestones that we had to look for. We also had to develop. As a baby, I had to put him through patterns of movement um, that brought the hands to the midline, crunched him up, rolled him side to side. And then once he got close to being able to walk, we noticed that he had that stretch reflex and he would always
Yep.
fall backwards and land, flat on his back. So every time Travis had a diaper change, we would take him and sit him down and stand him up and sit him down so that, would get him off balance and then sit him down so that he would learn to sit. And once he had mastered that, which he did, Travis walked. And it was similar with all other kinds of milestones, like riding a bike. He was determined to ride a bike, but balance is not one of his strong suits because he was diagnosed with spastic diplegia. So he could walk. He walked on his toes. We had to get the AFOs and all that kind of stuff. But he was determined to ride a bike. So put him on a bike, and he learned how to ride a bike going down a hill in one of our yards where there was grass. But he kept up until he was determined to learn how to ride a bicycle, and he did. And right now, as an adult, he has an e-bike which he can ride, or it's motorized, and he can get to work on it. So because of his disabilities and all the things he had going wrong with him, we never assumed that he wasn't going to be able to do anything. We worked on trying to help him do the things he needed to do. To that end, when we were in South Dakota, Dr. Noto, it was hard to get the kind of interventions and cooperation among all of his speech therapists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, and doctor. His doctor first put him on Ritalin because he was so hyperactive. He was all over the place. And that made him anxious and fearful. So they took him off that. And although Travis did not exhibit seizures, he was put on the medicine Tegretol, was what they found worked. And that allowed him to settle in and improve on some other areas. But because he was disjointed, we had him admitted to Crippled Children's Hospital and School in Sioux Falls.
Okay.
It's the hardest thing I ever had to do is to take my 4-year-old little guy and put him in that facility and leave him there. And I could not visit him for 3 months. And I remember sitting in the parking lot looking and just my heart coming out of my chest. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I can't see him for 3 weeks. Is he going to understand? Where's mom? Because he followed me around. When I stopped walking, he used to bump into me. So it's very hard to do that.
Yeah.
But the one thing that did come out of that was a benefit was that there was a coordinated effort. I think he had a team of 25 people
Oh my goodness.
observing him from start to finish, and they were able to find out how Travis learned. What was going to make him be able to learn things, and they had a behavioral psychiatrist come from Minneapolis to watch him. And it was determined, and that was a lot of time before we knew all about Asperger's and all these other things, which I
Yes.
think he's got a little of that going on too.
Yeah, definitely.
That Travis did not learn from observation and seeing other things. He could not read other people's emotions. He could not gauge, their level of irritation or anything else. And he said that we had to teach Travis behavior. In this situation, this is what you do. These are the kinds of questions you can ask, and that helped him navigate a little bit more so that he became a questions guy. And that's all he wanted to do was ask people questions, and he would perseverate on things that he knew the answer to, but wanted just to hear people say, what happens if I put my finger in the lights, socket? He knew what would happen. What might happen if I put my finger in the fan? He liked to see that big reaction.
Yeah.
But, that's the way he learned. So he was only there from June of 1 year to like May of the next, and then we moved to Connecticut. But we had the foundation for him to enter kindergarten and get the services and the kind of approaches that he needed. So that was, from then on, our mantra with 4 kids then and then now 5 was Travis had very special needs, but that didn't entitle him to special privileges. We made sure that he was treated just like any other child. He had things that he needed to do around the house. My husband had him out in the yard. Travis knows how to ride a zero-turn lawnmower. He knows how to operate a log splitter. He can do all kinds of things and help and understand how to carry and move things. Just because you're special needs, which is the term at the time, he didn't get excused from things. He still had to pick up his stuff, put his stuff in the laundry. He knows how to do laundry. And now, because of that, not putting him in a box and restricting what he was able to do, Travis lives independently. He has a job where he's, works almost full time. And he gets himself to work and back either by riding public transportation or his e-bike. And when we brought him home, being told that we might have a wheelchair-bound child that wasn't going to be able to do anything and require 24/7 care, it's amazing. And by the way, he did potty train by the time he was 3.5. He was potty trained. So what can I say?
Yeah, no, and I mean, he is independent by all definitions of the word.
Right.
He is, I think, probably part of the reason why he was so successful and why he was so persistent with things like learning how to ride the bike is he is also potentially one of the most stubborn individuals I've ever met. I,
Yes.
I mean, I adore him, but if he has his mindset on something, it's very difficult to convince him that what he thinks or what he wants is not the best option. If he
Right.
decides that I don't know, I want to buy this item and somebody says,
That's,
well, maybe that item isn't really the best thing for you, he's still going to buy it.
yeah. Yeah, he saves his money, a little bit, not much. He tries to manage his budget. That's one of his biggest challenges is math and numbers and again, like you say, he sees the latest gadget, gotta have that. Or one of his siblings gets a latest gadget. He thinks he's got to have it too because they
Hmm.
got it. Why can't I have it? And
Yeah.
yeah, that can be a problem. We had I won't say a tough time, but it was eventually a successful argument about putting his bike away in the winter
Hmm.
months and not being able to ride it and using public transportation all the time. And even has workers that'll come get him in snowstorms so that he doesn't have to try to get to the bus because, again, his balance isn't the best walking on ice. But that was a struggle for a while because he thought, he doesn't want us to take his independence away. However, getting him to understand that this is not about independence, it's about safety. And I think we've got that one
Yeah.
down. It
No,
took a while.
I have noticed that the bike has been away until the weather gets
Mhm.
good. I think the other challenge sometimes is he does not have good vision. It's the
Left eye.
left eye that's really
Yes.
bad. So sometimes when I see him driving around on his bike, I'm also holding my breath because I
Yes.
don't know how much he's seeing on his left-hand side. And he's very good about wearing a vest. So he wears his bright vest so people, don't miss him. But sometimes I'm like, wow, I think that was a dangerous maneuver there. Yeah.
Yes, and I feel the same way. I know he's on his bike. I'll call him on, weather days. And the other day when he had all the rainstorms earlier this week, he used the bus.
Mhm.
But, I guess it's in some ways it's similar to how we feel when our, diverse, not neurodiverse kids are driving all over the place. We worry.
Yeah.
And, he's changed his route. He was going through more of the busy traffic patterns to go to a back road now to get to work, which I encouraged him to do because I wasn't happy with him going through some of those big intersections down by the shopping areas. So that is what it is. That's a worry. He has had one accident with it, but it was not his fault. Somebody opened a door and he went slamming into it. The person did not see him. And as a result, he did learn a lesson. It can happen that quick, Travis, and it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be something you did. Look, this is what it is about driving, and this is why we worry. So,
Yeah. And fortunately, he was not seriously injured.
yeah,
He is the model of when I was a master's student, like 1,000 years ago, one of the articles that we read was an article that was on the dignity of risk. And I can't remember whether that was the exact title or not. I don't remember who the author was, but the whole idea was that individuals who had disabilities needed to have opportunities to take certain risks in order to become as independent as possible. That might be, cutting something with a sharp knife or running a log splitter or riding a bike. And if you don't allow folks the opportunity, whether if it's appropriate for them to engage in those things, then they don't live up to their full potential. And I think the approach that you and your family took was that he was given chances and opportunities to try out some stuff that I'm sure lots of folks were holding their breath the first time he ran that log splitter. I'm holding my breath and I didn't even see the log splitter.
Oh, he's good
Um,
at
and
it.
I'm sure he's phenomenal at it. And I know he's phenomenal at his job. And the kind of work that he does also comes with a certain amount of danger if you're not paying attention to what you're doing. But one of the good things about him is that when he's decided that he's bought into whatever the approach is, he will follow it to the
Mhm.
exact level that you asked him to do it. So if there's 5 steps and these are the 5 steps to run this machine at work, he will do those 5 steps. And if he sees somebody not doing those 5 steps and doing something unsafe, he is very in tune with that was a really bad idea and potentially rather vocal about it, I think as well. But he should be
There
the safety guy.
He could be. The risk taking is something that there are other areas that happened with him. One of them was in high school. There were some sports, of course, he couldn't do, but he did do cross country and track, and that was something he was able to run the full races, that he entered into. And his first race in cross country, he took off so fast, and because he's top heavy, his little spindly legs wouldn't carry him, he fell flat on his face. And everyone's, oh, and Travis got up and he went and he finished. So, that was a risk for him, but he did it all 3 years, sophomore, junior, senior year. And then the other thing is then when his first independent living in a group type situation with a roommate, there were people taking, supervising, oh, you can't cook, Travis. You can't, no, we don't want you using the stove. And he's like, what? I can use the stove. He knew how to make mac and cheese. He knew how to fry himself an egg, make a grilled cheese. He was appalled that weren't going to let him cook. So,
Uh,
there's stuff, yeah, you might burn yourself, you just make sure you don't, burn up the kitchen, but he never got close to anything like that. But again, those are the risks that you have to let them take in some ways so that they can
yeah,
be, yeah.
and he has thrived with those things.
Mhm.
And he's kind of built a bit like a triangle.
Mhm.
The
Yes.
top part is definitely a lot. And he does have those skinny little legs, which
Chicken legs,
he
as we call 'em.
which he uses, I believe, to his best advantage because he's a Special Olympian and he does powerlifting.
He
Is
does
that the?
powerlifting. Yep.
Yep. I
And
wasn't sure that that was it, the
yeah,
name
he
for the
loves.
category. Yep. And he
Mhm.
does the discus.
Well, he does the shot put.
Oh, he does shot put.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep. He does a shot put. Yep.
Um, so he uses all of that upper body strength to his advantage, and he's very proud of himself
Yeah.
when he's gone to the games and come back with
All,
medals, which he usually does.
yeah.
I believe he usually clears the field there. Um,
Yeah.
but
He does real well.
yeah, he's quite the athlete. So you've shared quite a few things, and I'm kind of anticipating maybe what your answer is, but I'm going to ask you, what are you most proud of that he's done, or that he has maybe the potential to be doing in the future?
I think my husband and I talked about it. I think we're both proud of the things that he's able to do independently, but the fact that this kid from like I said, where he started, lives independently, can take care of himself, and can hold
Hmm.
down a job.
Yeah.
We're very proud of the fact that he's able to do that. I mean, he's able to do all of those things. And I think of had we done things differently or tried to be too protective, or like you say, that not giving him the chance to try things that could be a little whatever. that he's able to do those things, and he's a productive member of society. I mean, he really is, and I think we're pretty proud of the accomplishments, in that area. But he's been a big part of that, because, like I said, that attitude that, well, I want to do that, or I'm going to
Yeah.
buy that,
Yeah.
where, he does get some supervision in terms of, like making sure he can get his groceries and this and that. But he doesn't want anybody around all the time, even at work. He's got a job coach, and he really objects. He doesn't want to feel different. He doesn't want to stand out that way. He wants to just be Travis and not have somebody watching him all the time, and
Yeah.
we've, scaled back a little bit on the job coach, but he would just soon not have one, because he
Yeah.
doesn't needs one. But I told, I'm just very grateful to the company for hiring him in the first place. And I think they found out that it wasn't a bad decision, especially when they had to tell him to take breaks, because he was just going to work the whole day and not even take one. Maybe not even lunch. He was just going to go and
He
get
would
it.
have, yeah. And I mean, he works competitively. He is a, an employee of this factory, and he has somebody check in on him just a little bit. And I think there've been some changes, and I think the person who's checking in on him is somebody that he's known for a long time. So it may be more of I get to visit with this person for a few minutes as opposed to they're checking up on me. I like this person, and I like to show them how I'm doing.
Well, one thing Travis, is still working on is him being more aware of the feelings of other people. That the reason why they have a job coach is to protect the company. It's not all about you. They know that they might be able to leave you, but because this company has taken a chance on hiring somebody, in a factory setting, they have to know somebody's going to come and, make sure everything's okay. And maybe there's some sort of a state regulation. I don't know. But other people's, expectations and feelings about that, like me worrying about him on the ice and snow and, blah, 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 blah. You've got to he has a hard time with that. And he still does,
Yeah.
understanding those kinds of feedback from people. He can't pick up on that all the time, and when you explain it to him, he's like, oh, like I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
But it's not,
He does
necessary.
definitely, he does not put himself in the position of
Other
the other
person.
person and see it from their side. So when you say that you're worried about something, or you're, a little angry with him or frustrated or disappointed or whatever, it has to be explained very concretely, which is a good
Right.
reason for there to be a job coach, because sometimes somebody has to run interference, even though the people who he works for seem to really understand him. But he is he's he's a little persnickety, I guess, for like a better way to say it. He has his own ways of doing things, and
Yes.
sometimes that's fine, but other times he
It's
needs somebody to kind of help him
right.
do things in a different way. And he does not read other people well at all.
Well, that's one thing that we had to do in education when he entered middle school. I requested a full meeting. I didn't want just special education administration. I wanted all the people that were going to deal with him in school. And we all sat at the same table, and I said, "This is Travis." I explained him, and I also explained my expectation. He communicates by asking questions. At that time, it was a question after question after question. And I said, "He will occupy all of your time." I said, if he comes in and you are busy, you have to tell him this is not a good time. This is not an appropriate time to ask all these questions. Oh, well, I don't want to hurt his feelings. No, you need to hurt his feelings, but you
Hmm.
do it the right way. It's going to hurt his feelings. Oh, well, this is not an appropriate behavior. And you have to teach him that you're not to do this in your class or at this time or whatever, and explain it to him. But you
Yep.
have to do that. And oh my gosh, I got a little pushback from some people. I said, no, I won't. This is the way it has to be. And that, I think, helped get him through his high school, and because he would do that. He'd say, hi, Miss So-and-so, and he'd want to talk about things, and he'd want to talk about things he'd talked to him about before, but it
Yep.
was not inappropriate. So, yeah, Dad's in here too. He agrees. And he'd go on and on and on. And,
Yep. Yep.
that was one thing that educationally, I think more parents need to make people that their children are going to be in contact with aware of what works, what doesn't work. Um, and their expectation, that, for me, it was pretty easy. It's not maybe easy for other people, but I know Kelly with Sam, she had to go to bat in all kinds of ways to make sure that people were doing what they said they were going to do in his IEP. You know,
Yeah.
how meeting time, how much time he was actually getting access to people. So with Travis, for me, this is my expectation. You don't allow him to do that.
Yeah.
So, I think
And
that was
that's I think a really important thing because we see people many times, and I don't think that you had actually mentioned that you're also an educator,
yes,
that we see folks let children who have, kids that are neurodiverse, kids that have other things kind of going on, we let them, people let them do things that they would never allow someone else to do. I always use the example when I'm talking to folks like, the adorable child with Down syndrome at 2 years old who's hugging the cashier at the grocery store. Everyone thinks that's so cute. But when that child is 13 or 33 and walks around the counter to hug the cashier at the grocery store, nobody's going to think that's cute anymore. That's going to
right,
be like a big problem. So we really
right.
need to make sure that we are helping folks understand. And you have to start, sometimes you have to start really early. You're starting working on skills that you want somebody to have as an adult, sometimes when they're still in elementary school. And it seems premature, but it's going to take, for them, it's going to take lots of practice and opportunities to get those skills.
Well,
Um,
very, very quickly, one thing that we did have to teach Travis was that when he was in the bus or in school, the middle school on, that you're going to run into people who are going to ask you to do things that you should not. And you have
mhm.
to tell them, I'm not doing that. And that
Yeah.
happened a lot to him on the bus. Why don't you go kiss a girl? And we tried to explain to
Yep.
him those kinds of things, those boundaries that you just described. And he would tell people, if you want to kiss her kiss, you go kiss her yourself. So we gave him the language and everything else, but those things happened to him in high school where kids would pick
Yeah.
on him, do things, and he was able to stand on his own and say, I'm not doing that. So,
Yeah.
those are the other things people have to prepare for. Like I say, you got to teach them, get them ready for it
Yeah.
because it's going to happen. So,
I think, he does have a strong sense of right and wrong,
yes.
which is very helpful, that if somebody did ask him to do something that wasn't, a good thing to do, or maybe was even an illegal thing to do, he's not going to be part of it. He's going to
No,
say
he's,
no,
mhm,
which is, incredibly valuable, especially as he's out living,
right.
independently. Um, so how do you encourage him to take pride in what he's doing or to, give himself some credit for things, or does he do that already?
He does that pretty much himself. Like with his medals and this and that, I did this, and he'll call his sisters up, and I did this many pieces. We had to get 2,000, and I got them all done today. And, we celebrate those things with him. Well, geez, Trav, that's great. Or when we go to Special Olympics, it's go. His nickname is Huta. Yay, Huta. Woo. Those kinds of things. He always likes to have, but we support him by being there for his activities too.
Yeah.
Watching him bowl, watching powerlifting. We go as much as we can. So, and when he calls and tells us something, we listen and we, praise him when we need to and help him navigate if that's what he's looking for. So, just
Yeah.
being a part of what he does. He might be 40, whatever he is, but in a lot of ways, that's not where he is in terms of,
Yeah.
accomplishments. And so we meet him there where he's at. So,
Yeah. And I mean, he's very accomplished in many ways, in ways that other people couldn't be. I know that I could not go work in that factory and produce at the level that he does. So, I think he's one of the few individuals, honestly, that I've met over the course of my time in the field that I feel incredibly confident actually, that he's okay. Like he's got this, he's independent. He will be okay. He will negotiate the supports that he needs. I suspect that one of his sisters will probably become somebody who tries to offer some of the guidance, as time goes on, because the unfortunate thing is usually parents don't out for the most part, parents usually don't outlive their children. So I suspect that you have a plan, or which one of the sisters is going to step in and which one it is that he's going to listen to, probably when he really needs to.
right.
Because I know you're usually the person who has to kind of go,
Yeah.
no, Trav, that's not going to work that way.
It's not going to work
Um,
that way.
Yeah. So, but well, Mary, I am so grateful for you spending some time with us and, giving us a little flavor of Travis. I I've contemplated bringing him on the podcast. I know that he would be more than happy to talk for 30 minutes about himself. I'm just trying to figure out how I'll get questions in there somehow and not cut him off. He'll probably bring a video of his work so that everyone could see what he's doing.
Yes,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, but I may invite him in the future. I think it would be good for him to come and share the story from his side as well, since we got a little story from Kelly about him getting bullied at school and her wanting to stick up for him, and
She
then
did.
we've certainly got a lot more from you. Yeah,
Yeah, she was a big advocate for him. Yeah, I remember it was at the lunch table.
yeah.
He told me he
And
couldn't
it
sit.
was good. That advocacy paid off because she needed it to support her son. So,
Mhm.
you just never know when you're going to need some of the skills that we've learned, as children and as youth. So, but thank you so much for
My
spending the time with us, and hopefully we'll catch up with Travis at some point in the future. Maybe you and I can talk to him about coming and doing this.
pleasure.
Maybe if he'll listen to yours and see what he thinks. So.
Okay,
All
I'm
right.
in.
Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Universally Unique, exploring the neurodiverse world of the extraordinary. Join me, Dr. Lori, on Transformation Talk Radio every second and fourth Monday at 11:30 Pacific Time as we continue to explore navigating a world not designed for diversity. For advocacy and support for individuals with disabilities, let's connect. Learn more about consulting and life coaching at notoholisticconsulting.com.